Hey guys, welcome to Transcend with Tisha, and today's topic is quite close to my heart. I've been interested in attachment styles for the longest time, and I've been seeing a lot of hate towards avoiding attachment style people, and maybe for good reason. But still, to be fair, both of the attachment styles, avoidant and anxious attachment styles, are rooted from trauma, childhood trauma, and both of these are not what we should aspire for. And for the longest time, even I was the kind of person who used to think that being an anxious in style is way worse than being avoidant. And maybe a part of me still believes it. But only recently I had this epiphany that why is that the case? For this episode, I'm assuming everyone knows what is an anxious and avoidant attachment styles, but still, just in case, an anxious attachment style is someone who feels kind of codependent on their partner and is very much into their feelings, very much into their emotional side, mostly also assuming what the other person is feeling because from the other side there is a lack of reciprocity or even at least the lack of same efforts that an anxious attachment style is putting in. More often than not, the anxious attachment style creates an like illusion of supremacy towards towards the avoidant attachment style. Like they think that, like they put them on a pedestal. Okay, they put them on such a pedestal that like kind of whole life, the anxious attachment style's whole life revolves around that person. And I know it's a very harsh way to say it, but I get it. I was an anxious attachment style. I'm not sure if I'm still or not, but because I haven't tested it, I have been single for a lot while now. But I've worked on myself. And and on the other hand, avoidant attachment style is someone who is more afraid of commitment, who's not that emotionally expressive, may withdraw themselves when they feel deep emotions, may withdraw themselves when there is a closeness, and they also like want the other person to chase them after they have withdrawn themselves. Like it's a subconscious thing. So there is that runner chaser energy. That dynamic is what the anxious avoidant attachment style is basically, in a short form. Of course, there are lot many stages and people are different. People experience it things a little bit differently, but this is the general overview of a typical example of a avoidant and anxious attachment style. But now let's talk about which one is better. For the longest time, I have believed that being an anxious attachment style is way worse than being an avoidant because like it just feels way worse. It just feels the other person doesn't care and like you are like it's very painful. But I'm not saying the avoidant attachment style is not going through anything. Of course they are, because both of these styles are rooted from childhood trauma. The way that we did not feel loved by our parents or caretakers. So the way that we felt neglected is, and the way we cope with it determines our attachment style. Is it anxious? Is it avoidant? Of course, there is also secure attachment style, and for secure attachment style, it's like your needs as a child, especially emotional needs, were met by your parents and caretakers, so that would create a secure attachment style. But let's be real, most of the people are not secure attachment style. It could also be the case that our parents loved us, but not in the ways that we wanted them to. Because more often than not, when someone loves us, if they don't love us the way we want them, if they don't love us in the love language that we prefer, we could feel unloved, right? Now, for the longest time, I believe that being anxious is way worse. And I have seen a lot of hate towards avoidant attachment style. And in the past, I thought for good reason. But recently, I had this epiphany that what is the reason behind it? like, why does it feel so much worse, and why there's so much hate towards avoidant? Because seemingly avoidant attachment styles, they don't feel the same pain as compared to an anxious attachment style. And not to say that they don't go through pain, but it's more like they avoid that pain. Avoidance, like, what do they avoid? They avoid commitment, they avoid emotional intimacy, they avoid emotional expression, emotional closeness. They tend to escape, they tend to run away when there's like a sense of emotional connection, emotional intimacy, like it scares them away. And they're not as much in tune in their emotions as compared to an anxious. And because they are trying to escape their feelings, because they're trying not to think about their feelings, they're trying to deny it, or they're refusing it to themselves as well sometimes. But more often than not, it's just a defense mechanism running away. It's like a psychological mechanism that works in their brains, that they feel it as a threat. Okay. And they are also the kind of people who would tend to neglect their own emotions. And what do you expect? If someone is neglecting their own emotions, how can you expect them to not neglect yours? Right? And that's a realization that comes after a lot of introspection and healing. But I was saying that, and because anxious people are more in tuned in their emotional side, and it creates more pain for them, you know, because they are not escaping from their feelings, because they are too much into their feelings, to be honest. It creates way more pain for them. And just seeing the other party not reciprocating your feelings and not showing up the way you are showing in the connection, not putting in as much efforts you are putting in the connection, it's just painful. It's just painful for a normal human being as well. But because anxious attachment style is more in tune in their emotions and more in their emotions, and you know what, anxious attachment styles are the kind of people who would put the other party in such a pedestal, and like their whole life might, you know, revolve around them. They might forget, they might lose themselves in the connection. They are the kind of people who would tend to lose themselves in a connection. And because the other party is so much important for them not, you know, showing up in the connection as you are is so damn painful. And because they're not escaping their feelings like an avoidant, it is more painful because they're feeling it. They're actually feeling and experiencing the pain. Whereas the avoidant, they would feel the pain if they choose to feel it, but they don't. They more often than not, they mostly try to escape their feelings, think, do something else, go into another connection. I don't know, like, it's just examples. But their main motivation is to not feel the depth of their feelings. And if they are not feeling their feelings, how would they feel the pain? How would they feel and experience the pain as much as the anxious? Not to say that they don't have the pain, but they are not feeling it. Does that make sense? And that's probably why a lot of people, a lot of anxious people, think to themselves that being anxious is way worse. In a way, it is, but at the end of the day, even avoidants are not happy. Even when they love a person way too much, it's a threat to them. It's like their brain works in that way because of trauma, because of the way they felt as a child, that their emotions are devalued. They should not be feeling things, you know, like feeling, finger quotes, as much as they would want a deeply emotionally fulfilling connection. They're scared of it. They're just not able to go for it, you know? And that's also pretty bad, you know? And it's hard for anxious attachment style people who are listening to this to hold compassion for avoidance. And I know that I've been there. Even as I'm speaking, it is a bit weird. When I started thinking in this way, it only makes sense, you know? I mean, it's not like the one or the other is better. Both of these are bad. Both of these feel like shit. And it's just We should strive for a secure attachment style anyway. Even as I'm saying this, it's a bit weird to hold compassion for avoidance being an anxious attachment style in the past, because I know how that feels. Like being in an anxious attachment mentality, I know how that feels and I know how painful it is. But holding compassion for the avoidance is comes through healing, I think. Come through introspection and healing. And once you see that it's not like they are doing any better, you can start to think, how can you be better? You know? Being an avoidant is not something to strive for, but we should try and be more secure within our attachment style, no matter we are an avoidant or an anxious attachment style right now. And it's totally possible to be a secure attachment style, whether you are avoidant or uh, anxious. And it would also take some time. I mean, in the past, I have thought that I've worked on my attachment style and, oh, okay, I have become secure and all. But when the time came, I have fell back to my old patterns. And yeah, it was, it was ugly. It was very ugly. It was the worst. It was the worst romantic experience of my life. And it was the most painful and probably the person that I've loved the most out of the very few people that I've loved. All that to say, it will take time, it will take some efforts, but the second time I did had more boundaries than the previous one. So progress. Look at the progress. Don't beat yourself up, even if you feel that even if you fall into old patterns. Even as we are speaking, you may be someone that you have an anxious or avoidant attachment style, and you try to work on it and then you failed, and it's okay. It's okay. It's very, very normal. Okay. Keep working on yourself. Let's be secure attachment style and live a happy, fulfilling life and build a successful, beautiful connection with someone, because unless and until we heal our attachment styles, we would continue to attract toxic dynamics. Not saying toxic people, but toxic dynamics. And that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I'm going to see you in my next one. Bye.